Welcome to the AFR Saints channel, where we provide you daily content on your favorite team, the New Orleans Saints. Do us a favor and hit that subscribe button. Be sure to leave your comments below and smash that like button. Who dat?
Saints are back on the practice field in full pads on Wednesday. Terrell was there. Of course, ESPN.com, NFL Nation reporter covering the Saints. Good enough to hang out with us for a couple of minutes. Hey, Kat, how are you?
I'm doing good. I'm trying to power through training camp, but I'm doing okay.
Well, it's interesting when you get to the point where the initial excitement of training camp sort of wanes and you get into the monotonous grind. And I think that it's very clearly something every coach wants to do to prepare their team for the season. It's been an ease into camp, as best I can tell from a distance. Are they still in that phase, Kat, right now, or are they starting to crank up intensity?
Yeah, I definitely noticed that they've cranked up the intensity the last few days, but I think that just comes with putting the pads on. You know, it changes things. I do think it's definitely a different type of training camp than I've seen in the past, because there's so much focus on recovery and preventing injuries that it kind of, like you said, it has felt like a slower start, but the players seem to love that.
Sure.
I'm not surprised they love it, but, you know, Gotcha was talking about it yesterday, and he's a 9-year vet and said this is the best training camp I've been a part of. So I guess what I'm trying to say is Moore seems to know how to keep the players happy so far, and that'll get them far through camp. But, I mean, it's going to be hard. There's just, like, no really getting around the dog days of summer.
Kat, and it's fair to mention, like, Kat, aside from covering the Saints, like, you also spent time covering the Cincinnati Bengals. You've covered training camp practices, joint practices throughout. Can you speak to what you perceive to be the value of, like, the hard, like, grind training camp and how other teams do it, maybe, like, to take it a little easier? Like, if there is a benefit or not to how you structure camp?
It's hard to say, honestly, because I do think that there was a time and place for these really, really hard camps and two-a-days and full pads and making the team tougher. Obviously, the 2006 Saints are a great example of that. I'm sure most of them will tell you that 2006 camp was the hardest thing they ever went through, but you can't do that anymore. So when you have to swing so far the other direction because of the CBA and because of the NFL rules, it kind of makes sense that you would try something different. They're really into sports science. I'm sure you've heard about this. I'm sure you've talked about it on the radio a lot. And so I think Kellen Moore is kind of following what Ted Rath tells him or advises him to do in terms of recovery. But I get it for this team because they were one of the most injury-bitten teams in the league last year. And so it makes sense that they would be all out on how do we prevent that from ever happening again.
Yeah.
And then we'll see. I mean, we'll see the results, I guess, in a few months, because truth be told, like, there's some injuries you just can't prevent. Some of it's just luck. So I truly don't know if this is going to help, or in a few months if we're going to be thinking, well, maybe they should have had more reps in camp, you know?
She's on Twitter at @Kat_Terrell. Give her a follow. Kat, is there a little more than a week now, is there a position group you think that appears maybe to have solidified themselves as the strongest unit on this team?
Oh, that's a really good question. I feel like I've been so quarterback focused.
Yeah.
It's hard to even give you an answer. I think, I mean, this is not an answer to the question. I think there have been a lot of impressive moments from the defensive line the last few days, which is a positive, because that is not a position I would say I feel is the strongest on the team. There's a lot of concerns about that one for me, so that's kind of a pleasant surprise. I think the offensive line has quietly been consistent and gelled together, which they need to do. I know I'm just going through positions because this team, you know, there's really no standout position. It used to be years ago, the offensive line for sure, but they can't say that anymore. So that's a tough one. I don't think there's really a standout yet.
Let me ask you a specific position group then. Let me ask you about receiver, because I feel like I see a lot of highlights from Rashid Shaheed and Chris Olave's back, two guys that were injured and missed the bulk of last year. And that was a giant that was a giant weakness a season ago because of the injuries. How do you think guys like Olave and Shaheed and the rest of that group, and who else has stood out after those guys so far?
I mean, it's really just them. And then Brandon Cooks is the third guy, right? And he has his own injury issues that he's dealt with. So I'm not going to lie and say that's not concerning for that position. I do think it's concerning. And I do think there are real questions about how Olave and Shaheed will hold up during the season. I mean, I know Shaheed said he put on weight. That I feel like I'm just being negative, but then that kind of automatically raises the question in your mind, okay, if you put on weight, are you purposely, obviously, are you the same receiver you were last year?
Sure.
I think he looks very good so far. There actually was a good moment in camp, coming from someone who had been hurt last year. He caught a pass from Tyler Shuck. It was kind of a high pass near the sideline. He just got whacked immediately and fell over. And the wide receivers coach immediately was like, that's why he has pads on. I mean, he popped back up and it was all fine. Don't know if that's necessarily what you want to see in camp. One of your most valuable players getting sent to the ground. But, the fact that he popped back up and it was like, okay, he's good. And he also, I think he had a tough catch later on that same practice. So, if those two can stay healthy, then I think it's not a concern. But, that's so many ifs, right?
Kat, it's interesting because you're right. So much of the conversation is around quarterback, and I totally understand that. And even the offensive line, because you have so much draft capital invested there. But, my eyes shift toward things like cornerback, where that was so solidified for so long. You knew Lattimore and Adebo, and, those guys were there, and it was locked in, and you drafted Alontae Taylor. Now all those guys are gone, and it's like, is it Kool-Aid, McKinstry, and question mark? Have we learned anything about the cornerbacks yet?
It's McKinstry, it's Isaac Yiadom, it's Alontae Taylor. I mean, that's probably your three guys right there. I think the rookie, Quincy O'Reilly, has made a lot of nice plays. That's not, that means he's going to go into the season and be great. But I do think he's caught my eye, so that is a positive. But I think with Taylor, he can be so good and also just so up and down. And part of that, I blame the coaching staff the last few years for moving him constantly. He was, the first few years of his career, he was always moving positions. And that's hard to get settled and really become good at what you're doing if you don't know what you're doing from week to week. So I think that, the guy's really talented. And, if he lives up to his potential and so is McKinstry, then it's kind of the same thing I was saying as the receivers. Then they'll be okay. But, there are some ifs there. But I do like the addition of Justin Reid. I do think that was a good addition. And so it seems like quietly people haven't been talking about the safeties that much, surprisingly, since Matthew retired.
Well, there's Reid, and they also added Blackmon, who I think is he
was hurt last year.
Is he like a plug-and-play starter opposite Justin Reid? I mean, is that settled? Those two guys are going to be your starters?
Yeah, I absolutely think Blackmon's going to be starting next to him.
Okay.
He talked to us the other day and said, yeah, I didn't have a great year last year. He was hurt. And Brandon Staley has been wanting to sign this guy forever. Also, oh my gosh, I keep getting worried that I'm going to say Justin instead of Julian because of Justin Reid right next to him. So if I do say that, please correct me. It's my training camp brain.
It's all good.
That is not all there right now.
I just chart numbers. I just chart numbers, Kat. I'm jotting jersey numbers down.
You're like Sean Payton.
Yeah,
he needed to be told the number at this time of the year.
86 made a nice play. That's it, really.
Yes. Sometimes he'd be like, can you give me that number, please? Because he just said the name. Yeah. Sometimes when he tried to act like he knew who you were talking about, and that was even worse. Just keep a track of 90 guys. It makes for some funny moments during camp.
Ask Sean Payton. With Saints will play the Broncos in the third preseason game. Pop into that press conference. Say Sean, what'd you think about 72 today? How did he just drop a number on him? See what he says.
Just pop in. Just ask about an injury. He probably kicked me out.
That would be a perfect dismount, but I got one more question. Okay, special teams. I know they hosted some punters. Burnip seems to be booming the ball. Is this an open competition? Are they not settled there at the specialists?
I think it's an open competition at punter, but I honestly think Grupe has already kind of solidified that he's the guy at kicker. I don't know if Smith is in a sophomore slump or what, but Grupe has looked really good. As far as the punters, Moore said they just worked him out just to have a list, but you never know with coaches. So if you take him at his word, then they're just working him out just to see what the guys around the league were like. But as far as kicker goes, I mean, Smith has missed 7 kicks, I think, and Grupe's missed 1. So pretty good start for his training camp.
She's Kat Terrell. She's just doing her job, Sean. At Kat_Terrell is where you can.
That's a good callback.
I was telling Moose, I was like, I'm trying to find the audio. Anyway, see if we'll see if we can find it. It's a classic moment. Kat Terrell, follow her on Twitter, read her stuff over to ESPN.com. Kat, we appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, anytime.
All right, be well. Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact, and be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.